everyone. Hi, Bonnie.
Hi, Julianna. Oops, I started well.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
So welcome. I know this is your first book.
Absolutely. It could be the last, but definitely the first.
Yeah, we always say that, and
Yeah.
then they say it's like giving birth to children. You forget the pain of the first one.
It is a sobering experience, I will tell you that. I have a whole
It's
new
hard,
respect.
right?
Oh my goodness.
So before I get into the book, which is so good, I loved it.
Thank you.
I want to know why. Why now, at this point, you've had all this success, why did you want to write this book?
You know, it's interesting. I'm at a point in my career for the first time where I'm completely agenda-free. I have no corporate pressures. I'm not protecting a team. I'm not asking for money. It's a time where you can really look back and reflect. And thank you, the pandemic. I had a little extra time on my hand. I wasn't commuting from Connecticut to New York and eating up 3-4 hours a day. And I took the time to think about what my journey would have been like had I had basically a mentor in my pocket that helped me navigate the way, especially when I was younger.
Right.
And based on my generation, there weren't that many women in the field. So I was lucky. I had some mentors, but they were mentors. And I so desperately wanted a female, a woman to help show me how to navigate this world that, when I was younger, was so new to me. So I decided I wanted to do a mentor in the pocket. And I've been mentoring women at work for so many years, and guys. And I figured, why not try?
Amazing. And you did an incredible job, because so here's actually part of what's in your book. I normally wouldn't read a book called 15 Lies Women Are Told at the Workplace, because I'm not in corporate America. I'm on the artistic side, or some could say autistic side. But the truth is, I said yes for several reasons to do this. One was that I have heard about you forever. We had actually worked on a project when I did the Lost Room on the Sci-Fi Channel. Run, don't walk. But this is part of the reason I think this book is so important, especially for young women and men, quite frankly. I know it's called 15 Lies Women Are Told in the Workplace, but I actually think many men would find all of this acceptable too.
I agree, but I will tell you, my friends in the audience here from Simon & Schuster definitely wanted it focused.
Well, no,
so
it's
we kept
good.
The women.
Listen, it's our turn to focus, so that's okay.
Yeah, so
that's all
go
good.
Marketing.
But the truth is, I wouldn't have read this book had you not asked me to moderate this conversation. And I learned so much about my own business, what I do on a set, that really mirrored so many of the things that you talk about in this book. And the biggest thing that I took away from it was people are afraid to ask questions. People get to work and they see someone who's been there much longer than they have, and they think they're supposed to know it all. So instead of saying, how do I, or what should I, or how can I make this better, they clam up and they get, sort of gritty teeth, and they want to do it themselves. And the truth is, I used to sit on the set of The Good Wife and think, I'm never going to give someone my advice without being asked, because who am I to give advice without being asked? But ask me, I'm here. Yes. And I was always so surprised at younger actors who would come in and not ask. Because that's all I did. When I got on the set of ER, George Clooney had done 14 pilots, all failed. But he had been on a set way longer than me, and in the business way longer than me. I asked him everything. I learned set etiquette from him. What to do, what not to do.
Because you weren't afraid that somebody was going to judge you. You were willing to learn. And I think what happens, people, and in particular women, are afraid to show they don't know something.
Right.
There's the, in a sense, the imposter theory where, I have to make them believe I know what I'm doing, what I'm talking about, and it hurts. It doesn't help. And I think if more people would do what you did, just ask, learn, because people want to take you under,
They want to help you.
they want to help. They want to take you under their wing and be part of your success story.
Right.
And they don't realize that.
Well, you give great direction in this book about how to ask. And there's so many, I'm sorry, I'm getting old, I need glasses. I read it cover to cover, and there's too much for us to go into tonight, so I'm trying to just give highlights to give everybody an idea. But the first thing, aside from asking you why you wanted to write the book, so let's talk about the workplace. Okay, so I want to just read this quote because I think it's a very important thing to start with. And okay, so on page 33, so while our pasts count for something, and our potential matters too, it is what we do in the present that makes us worthy. And that goes back to what we were talking about asking. So it's not about where I've been and where I'm going, it's who are you now?
That's right.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, people don't realize that your words follow you. That when you hear people say either your reputation precedes you, or when you leave a room, that reputation echoes after the fact. So what you say, what you do, how you say it, says more about your personality, your potential, who you are. Are you kind? Are you self-serving? Just how you present yourself through your words makes a huge difference. I mean, I think I talk about in the book too, getting something, whether it's a restaurant reservation or a raise, has all to do with asking, but not that you ask, it's how you ask.
Right.
It's not entitlement, it's not arrogance, it's a confidence, but with humility. And I think if people could learn one thing, is how to be humble. It doesn't come across as a lack of confidence, but when you have humility with confidence, again, people want to help. They're going to say yes.
Right. Attitude.
Attitude, totally.
Attitude matters.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. Oh, well, that just took my third question. Attitude matters. Okay. So this is something I want you to expand on, where you write, find the truth teller. I found that fascinating, and I think a lot of people are afraid to find the truth teller, right? So can you expand on that a little bit? Because I thought it was really well written.
Yes. I think most of us grow up believing that people who support us, or what we call supportive mentors, are cheerleaders. You want a friend by your side all the time, somebody who's just going to cheer you on. And that's great, and I don't want to give up any friends. Any of you are here, I want you to stay put and still remain my friend. But the truth you get when you have a challenging mentor, what I call in the workplace, I always want a foil. I want someone who's going to play devil's advocate. I want somebody who's going to tell me that I can do better than I'm doing. I've been very lucky. I've had a couple of great mentors. Unfortunately, they've been all mentors in the business who've really been truth tellers. They put the tough in tough love.
Can you give them an example? Because you have a great example here with Barry Diller when you were first working for him. A lost weekend, you thought.
Yes, okay. So when I was relatively young in the sci-fi world, pretty much around Lost Room time, we were about to launch a show, or we're trying to get money to launch a show with a guy named John Edward, who is a psychic. And
I remember.
Yes, it was crossing over with John Edward. And
many people remember that show.
Yeah, it actually made the air, but it took a while to get there. So Barry sends me an email, and believe me, this is before iPhones. So I'm at a computer, sitting at the desk. Barry sends an email, and you know it's going to go back and forth, and it happened to be a December weekend, and it was snowy. So he sends me an email saying, okay, Bonnie, if a psychic, if John Edward is a psychic and a psychic is real, why would he be on the sci-fi channel, science fiction channel? And,
I mean, good question.
Yeah, and if he's not real, why the hell are we in business with him anyway? So Barry, all weekend long, went back and forth. What did he do before? Questions driving me crazy, and I was petrified to go away from that computer. Finally, Sunday night came, and I said, I've got to get it, give in. We're not going to do the show. And I said, I have one more shot. I'm going to give it one more shot. And I said, okay, psychics are in the mind of the beholder. You cannot prove if a psychic is real or not. It just can't be done because it's in someone's belief. Therefore, it lives somewhere in between fact and fiction, so perfect for sci-fi. And he said, okay, your argument is win, go. But the point of it is, this is a man who taught me how to think, challenged everything I did, till I knew in my heart of hearts it was the right answer, the right way to go. And he was very supportive in the other way. We were launching a show called Taken. And we were going to do it as a limited series, 2 hours a night, 2 weeks straight. And we were going to repeat it very much like what streaming is right now. But we didn't know what streaming was back in 2002. And about 2 or 3 months before or after things were scheduled, our sales team basically said, you can't air it as a limited series. Why? You got to do it as a series. So again, I told the argument to Barry. He said, send me the pilot. Let me see what it looks like. I sent him the show, and he said, if all the episodes are as gluely compelling, I never heard that before, gluely compelling, I think you have a hit on your hand. Screw the world. And that was it. So that's somebody who supports you, challenges you, and just helps you make some of the tougher decisions, because he's not going to let you get away with mediocrity or failing. But if you fail after you've thought it out thoroughly, he didn't care.
But what I like about this whole story and mentorship is oftentimes a lot of people in your position at that point in time would have thought that Barry was against you. Do you know what I mean? Like by challenging a person, oftentimes people's reaction to that is that they're not on your side.
Julianna, I had a kickboxing bag at the class I took on the weekend with his name on the damn bag. He scared the hell out of me.
But he was on your side.
Yes. In hindsight, I
realized
that.
Right. After you kicked the shit out of him, he was on your side.
That's right.
But I think it's important to remember, I think oftentimes when people get challenged in the workplace, you think someone's against you.
That's correct.
Rather than state your case. Make me believe in what you're believing in.
Yes, and I think that's true for everybody. I think more so for women in terms of being criticized, thinking that somebody is either after them or just doesn't like them or doesn't have respect for them. And part of it is society. Part of it is how women have been coddled. Right now, I think it's harder for men and women in the workplace when they get criticized because you're not supposed to say tough things to people in the work setting anymore. And I think it hurts people.
I do too. I think we've all become a little too sensitive.
Yeah.
And how are we supposed to get better? So this leads me to my next question. And I loved this because it's something I've actually, I had a whole argument with my kid's school teacher about it. I won.
Shocking.
No, because, I went at it in a very civil manner. It's about, you talk about failure. Right. People think if you fail, you've lost. Instead of, we learn. How else do we learn? Right. If we don't fail? And you talk beautifully about that in the book. And I understand in the workplace it's difficult, right? It's different than in life. If I messed up my chicken dinner, that's a failure of a dinner. Mm-hmm. But I learned then I learned how to make chicken better the next time. Mm-hmm. But literally, failing at work is a chance to, this is what you wrote beautifully in the book about failure. What does it mean to you to fail?
It's a chance to learn. It's a chance to take a look at what did I do wrong or what did the team do wrong. But you have to own it. So much of the time when we fail, we blame something else, someone else, everybody else.
Right.
And as someone who has run teams, I've always had to own the failure because ultimately it was mine, even if it came from one specific group within the team. But you've got to own it first, and then you have to really take a look at what worked, what didn't work, and why, and be honest about it. And it's important because that is the only way you really learn. My only rule is just don't make the same mistake twice.
Right.
You can fail again, and you will fail again.
At something
but don't
else.
do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Learn from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a very important lesson. I think so many times I know for myself, just when I get a script, I think, okay, I got to learn these lines right now. I'm like, I just got the script. I always have this inner dialogue with myself about you just got it. It's a learning process. You can't, I don't have a photographic memory. I can't.
Type A and perfectionist, right?
Right, of course.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, which can also be harmful.
Yep.
But
Good and bad.
that's another, leads us to another subject that you talk about, which is how you view yourself in the workplace. Be your own champion. A girlfriend of mine once said to me, and she was 100% right. She said, if I treated you the way you treat you, you would hate me.
That's well put.
Isn't that well put? And you
really
talk
well
about that in the book on how you see yourself. Because even if you are just the PA getting the soda for someone who needs, Coke Zero instead of Diet Coke, find the Coke Zero. The details of, be proud. It doesn't matter what the job is. Put yourself behind it 100%.
And I believe in it in every level, from your starting job to the top job. Treat other people how you want them to treat you, and then treat yourself the same way. And whether you're, as I started out cleaning dog poop, the first job I ever had was beneath
It's a great
me
chapter.
in a little, it was definitely beneath me in a lot of ways, plus the dog got paid more than I did. But you gotta do it with a smile. Who you are, your attitude, your positivity reflects on everybody around you, and people want to be around happy people. And I don't mean it in a fake way, pretend to be happy, but if you have an assignment, do it with a smile. Even if you don't love what it is, oddly you will learn something, you'll take away something. And people are going to notice that, and they're going to want you around them, and they're going to be the ones that bump you up because they know you're going to take on something with a smile, no matter what it is, and they're going to want you to be part of their world, and vice versa.
Right.
And it's not hard. It's not hard, but again, what happens, I think, with the younger generation right now is they literally grunt at grunt work. And we all had to do it at some point. And even at this level, sometimes I'm doing things that I roll my eyes because somebody asked me to do it. But I do it, and I realize somebody's got to get it done.
Right. Right. And if you're going to do it, complaining about it isn't going to make it better.
Correct.
Right. And yeah. I do think there's a lot of, I can't imagine, I only know from friends of mine who are running companies that tell me, they have a presentation on a Wednesday and an employee says, that's my personal day. And they can't run a company like that, right? So that person won't get promoted. Now, they're not going to fire them for it because for whatever reasons, but he knows that that person's not on his team. So
correct. Part of it, I think, is generational. Part of it, I think, the rules in the workplace have changed so much with hybrid situations, people having permission to work from home whenever they want, having more time, more hours. It changes the nature of the work setting. when we were navigating through, at least my generation navigating through, we would have never said that.
Right.
And if we did, you knew instantly you were not going to get that next job.
Right.
We worked crazy hours, and in the beginning, beyond the poop, it was collating strips. It was getting clothes for the young kids on the show, returning the clothes after they destroyed the clothes on the show, and you just did it. And it didn't matter what the hours were. I think I did 60, 70-hour weeks sometimes when I was young. And in hindsight, I think it's probably crazy, but it was also fun. It was a journey that was incredible, and I learned so much at the times I didn't expect to learn because I was just there.
Right. There's a quote that I wrote down. Sorry. Well, that was, yeah, you had just spoken about it, but what you wrote in it was treat every opportunity like an opportunity to learn.
It's true.
Rather than to feel, oh, I can't believe I'm cleaning up dog shit,
Yeah.
which is what literally you did in your first production job.
Yeah.
Was cleaned up dog poop. But I actually think if you look at everything as being interesting and how you do something and how you are asked and how you then respond, that changes the environment.
What happens is there was one job, two jobs back in the public broadcasting days that I took. One had to do with basically running a budget for a documentary series. I don't do great math. I've never taken an accounting course in my life, and when they gave that to me to fill some time in between projects, I thought it was nuts. But I learned so much by working on a budget for a documentary series I wasn't involved in, that again in hindsight, when I started running my own teams and having to check budgets and having to understand the mathematics, in terms of the bottom line, it was, oh my goodness, that year experience was incredible. And again, I didn't whine about it at the time. I needed the job, I needed the money, and I was employed.
Right.
So I learned as much as I could. I was taught by one of the best CFOs on the team, and it was something that helped me tremendously after the fact. Same thing with learning some stuff in technology. I don't know nothing about technology, but again, it prepared me for jobs later on, understanding what you have to go through when you change from half-inch to CDs to DVDs. It was a phenomenal education, even though it's not something I ever would have chosen.
Right. That leads us into, I don't even have to look at my notes because you're so good at navigating this. But that leads me into your chapter about zigzagging. Can you expand on that? Because after you tell it, I will repeat the story I told you in the green room.
Okay. I think both guys and women have been brought up to believe that the only way in a professional world is up, that you climb rung by rung from the early positions all the way up to leadership and you go straight on. Lots of problems with that. First is sometimes by the time you get to the top, that job's gone, the industry is gone, something has radically changed, and you have a skill set this narrow. You have no breadth, no ability to go anywhere else because this is all you know. When you zigzag and you take jobs to the left and the right, it broadens you in so many different ways that if you learn, you become more interesting to others because they're not going to pigeonhole you only in one spot. You have the opportunity to go after so many different kinds of jobs because you've had exposure. You also meet so many different people that later on in life, the one person you met when you zigzagged, even though you'd really like that job, is the person who reaches out and gives you something else 2, 3, 5 years later. And it just makes you a much richer, much more interesting candidate when you do get to a place where you could be in a leadership capacity because you have so much more exposure, so much more experience, a depth of field that others don't. Plus, you've experienced so many of the jobs that you understand what the people alongside you and beneath you are now doing. So you have more empathy for them and more understanding for what they're doing.
Right. I always think it's I always say everyone should work in the food industry, in the service industry before they do anything else, because once you have been a waitress or a bartender or a coat check girl or a busboy, literally you learn how to work with people and you're kinder.
That's very true.
You know, I mean, even if I have a bad waiter, I still give him a huge tip because I'm like, oh, he's probably just having a bad day. I know what it's like. And when you can have that kind of empathy for a human being.
You have heart. Not a whole lot of people have that kind of heart, and I love that. You do.
Well, that's why everyone should work in the food industry. Thank you.
Yeah.
But this happened to me yesterday. Bonnie and I had already spoken, and I had already read the book, and I was walking my dog, and there were graduate students early in the morning drinking champagne in their caps and gowns, taking pictures in this little mews I walk my dog in. And my dog went running, well, she was off leash, don't tell anyone. My dog went running up, and they started petting her, and I came over and I said, congratulations, I hope you get to have a graduation. And they were like, we're not sure. And I said, you know what, you're graduating, congratulations. And one of them shocked me. She said, do you have any advice? And I had just read Bonnie's book. And I said, as a matter of fact, I do. Zigzag. It was so great, and I expanded on what you just said, and they stood there, they're like, thank you so much. But I was so grateful that they were asking. You know, I thought, you're going to do okay because you're asking, right? And
they will do okay because they are, and they're not, you know, they're not going to stay in that one line and follow that dream and then miss out on all these other opportunities.
Right, because you also never know.
You don't.
You just don't know. And when you're just graduating from college, you're not at an age to know yet.
You can't. I mean, one of the earlier chapters, especially now during commencement time, follow your dreams. What do you know about your dreams when you're that age? You know, your mother or father whispered something in your ear.
Right.
Cartoons, fairy tales, superheroes, a course at college. You know, one of the lines in there is you can't be what you can't see. You can't dream what you don't know. So how do you know what your dreams are at 12, 18, 25?
Right.
You've got to figure out and navigate a little bit so you can test things out to find what your dream is as an adult. Does it fit you? Is it something you're really going to like doing? Are you an introvert but really thought you wanted to be in the media industry and you have to deal with everybody? You have to understand yourself. You have to understand what it means to be in that specific position. And you're not going to know that when you're young. You have to test it out.
Which is why it always drives me crazy when people used to come up to my son when he was 6 and say, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yep.
I was like, let him be a kid. He doesn't know. Neither do we. He's not going to know for years. Because then you're stuck in a box. If suddenly you say, I want to be a secretary or whatever, then that's your vision.
Yep.
And it becomes your narrative. And it's so important not to ask children that. Because it sticks with you through college. And then you get out of college and you're like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Good, you have an education. Now go explore. Right? That's what it's about.
It's very true.
Anyway, I digress.
No.
So here's a quote. I love this, and I really want to talk about this. And this is not to exclude any men in the room. The way to succeed in a man's world is to stand out like a woman.
Yes.
I want a T-shirt made up of that.
Ooh, I like that idea.
I think we should do that. Let's start a little business. Talk about that.
Well, I think too many of us have believed, especially in my generation, that in order to succeed, you had to echo behavior of guys, which doesn't work for a woman because we're very different. And I think we often don't give ourselves enough credit for what literally are part of our chromosomal behavior of collaboration, caring, empathy, caretaker. And all of these strengths and all of these traits help us be great leaders. we collaborate, we create teams, we know we have to get people to help, and I don't think we embrace what we are so capable of doing that is natural and organic, that we also tend to listen. We hear better because as caretakers, we've had to, whether you're juggling your kids or your life and work or parents that are aging, you're constantly listening, juggling to what's going on and have to respond. So if we paid a little bit more attention, doesn't mean that you're negate the other stuff that you need to navigate the work world, but the XX factor is incredibly important in terms of navigating the world as a female. And I think the empathy we have for others, for those who work with us, those who work for us, and even those who work above us, are something that we don't give ourselves enough credit for.
Right. Yeah. So don't hide who you are.
No.
Be who you are.
Be who you are.
Yeah.
Embrace it. Don't try to be anybody else. And it also goes for your own image. Really embrace your own presence. You don't have to echo what somebody else is doing in that workplace. Know what works for you. Know what's authentic for you, but let it be your best you. Just people are going to make a judgment about who and what you are. Just be your best self. And empathy and listening goes far.
Right. Yeah. That is, there was, you talk about female companies in the book, and I found this fascinating. Female companies tend to outperform those led by men. Now, I just want to read what you wrote, because I did not know this. Female companies tend to outperform those led by men and fare better in crisis, while employees with female managers tend to feel happier at work.
It goes to the XX factor. Collaboration.
Oh, let's talk about the
cover
XX
each other's
factor.
back. So
You need to explain that before. We haven't talked about the XX factor.
Okay,
Sorry,
well,
I should.
that's
Yeah.
part of the caring, the empathy, the collaboration, et cetera. And I think the success in many of the women's companies are due to the collaboration that women are, it's organic to our nature to work with others and figure out how to make things happen. We are more protective of one another. We are detail-oriented in ways that I think women tend to be on the job or a little bit more perfectionists. So I don't have all the specifics behind that research, but when you dig deep into it, it is collaboration on the job that really does the trick.
Yeah, to that point, it's so, we're told not to play at work, right? And you have a chapter in the book about actually that's a myth, because going out for celebrating your successes with each other in the workplace, why is that a bad thing? And you talk about the energy, that it can be toxic if you're just going in, and how today more and more places of work, people are finding themselves lonely and friendless and isolated. So talk about the other rule, that we're supposed to not mix work with pleasure, and why that actually can backfire.
It's funny. In writing this thing, I was very, very careful, pleasure versus play. Because right now in work settings, how you define what pleasure means,
Right.
with HR departments can be a little sticky.
Yeah. So you have to be careful.
Yeah. But having fun at work creates relationships,
Right.
creates trusts. When people are happy at work, they want to come back, they want to stay, they want to be part of a team. And I think what has happened is telling people they shouldn't have too much fun, telling people they shouldn't go out after work for a drink together because, heaven forbid, somebody touches your shoulder in a nice, completely safe way. It can be dangerous. really hurts performance on the job because you're not forming relationships. When you form relationships, you trust your colleagues. If somebody needs help, you could read their face and you understand they're not having a good day. Let me reach out and help them. It creates a bond that you can't replace when you're either working full-time hybrid or when you show up part-time. Like any relationship, when you're with people and you're working together and they start trusting you, everything just gets better.
Right. It's a team.
It's a team.
Yeah.
It's a team.
There's no I in team.
No. And it's very, very true. And we would do things. We had the Hammer Games in Los Angeles where everybody would get together in the early summer and just play volleyball on the beach. And every April, it was the last week before Rock Center ice skating rink closed down. I would do a brunch with my entire cable team and try to push everybody on the ice. And we would literally have breakfast, go ice skating together. Even if people couldn't skate, they would go along holding the edge of the ring, and hugging one another. And it just created such a warm environment that everybody just got to know each other better, saw their vulnerabilities in a good way, and became friends. And I am so fortunate. I think there are a bunch of my team, my former team out here. We've been together for decades because we developed friendship and bond. It never took away from the job. It didn't diminish their capability or their incredible work ethic. In fact, it did the opposite.
Yeah, it gave them incentive, probably.
Exactly. I wouldn't give that up for the world, and it's a piece of advice any young leader should encourage people getting to know one another, creating fun, not demanding that, okay, we're all going to party tonight at 9, just having that door open so people can really engage with one another and learn about each other.
Joy.
Pure joy. You're right.
Joy. Mm-hmm. Because I think when you hear the word work, it sounds like, ugh.
Yeah.
So when you go to work because it's a joyful place to be, the work's going to be better.
Yeah. And we would I got criticized a couple of times. There was a point where a couple of the people in management, upper management, thought that the cable group, because we were together for so long, was a cult. And I said, you're just missing it by 3 letters. It's a culture.
Right.
'Cause we would work on a presentation late at night, and of course, we'd be bringing pizza and wine.
Right.
And people would stay later, and we got it done. There was one presentation. I remember we were going to have a hard time getting money from our CEO and the head of finance, so we went in with basically football helmets into a meeting because we know we were going to get pushed back.
You were going to butt heads?
Yes. So just those things can happen if you're not with a group of people who trust you that they're not going to get fired by walking into a meeting that way.
And
it worked.
And
we
it
got
worked.
the money.
Well, there you go.
We got the money.
Yeah, but it's important because you have one bad apple in a group of people who are all working toward the same gain, but you have one bad apple, it creates toxicity. There's no denying that. Yeah. And you feel it, and it then becomes a place where no one wants to go.
That's exactly right.
And when you're the boss, when you're the leader, if you make sure that toxicity has been weeded out, then you're also, I think, I always say this on a set, down to the 3rd assistant director, who possibly is just in charge of, getting the cast from their trailers to the set on time. Horrible, thankless job. I can't do what I do without them. When I'm on a set, the focus puller, the camera operator, the boom girl, every single person in that studio, it all works because we work together. If one person is missing, I can't do my job. So I always, would say, you treat everyone equally. You say good morning to everybody on a set, especially your DP, idiot. When I would see actors walk onto a set and just, not say hello to your DP, director of photography, they're lighting you. Say hello.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? It doesn't, but that's the other thing. It actually is much easier to be kind than it is to be spiteful and mean.
Did you write this book? I'm sure you did.
But that's what I love about the book, is because you actually talk about manners. You talk about what I think is a lost art form in how to say thank you, and how to be gracious, and how to just drop a note. And the payoff is
Ginormous.
enormous, always.
People don't understand how the tiniest gestures, exactly what you said, a hello, a hug to a security guard that you see every single day, and it's just, you know, they're in shock, and then just how they receive you afterwards is just so rewarding in your own heart. The tiniest gestures, remembering somebody's birthday, and if you don't remember it and a week later you remember, still send the note. It's appreciated and makes the other person feel so good. And it takes no time, no effort at all. And oftentimes, people have it in their minds. They don't just press send. And the other thing in my mind is, rather than text, call. Rather than call, walk into somebody's office. Do whatever you can do that is more personal. Look at somebody in the eye when you can. If you can't, call. If you can't, then text.
Right.
But that just the human connection is so important.
It's so important.
Yeah. But it's the little gestures that sometimes mean far more than, and a thank you, just a note to somebody if they helped make your day.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's how I met my husband. I happen to remember I had dinner with an agent who I didn't go with, but I remembered his birthday. I had sent him flowers saying, thank you for the dinner. I'm going to go somewhere else, but I really appreciate you taking the time. And, we had a lovely dinner. And I remembered his birthday 3 months later.
Love it.
And I texted him. It happened to be the same day as my grandfather's birthday. My grandfather had just passed away, and I just said, just want to say happy birthday. Hope you're having a good day. He was so blown away by that. He said, I can't believe my own clients don't know it's my birthday. I'm actually in town. Come. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of busy, but I'll stop by for a drink. My husband, my now husband, was standing at the bar. He had been his RA at Dartmouth. And this guy walks over to me, and we literally have never been apart since.
That's it. Yeah.
Because I remembered someone's birthday and just wrote it in that moment. Do it.
But exactly what you said, you wrote it in the moment, and then, as silly as it sounds, keep a calendar. Anytime you hear something, just jot it down on your phone. Just figure out a way to have these things pop up, because the 2-second gesture will pay off. Maybe not with the husband, but it will pay off. Yeah.
I got lucky.
Yeah. You know?
But
Yeah.
truly, it all came from remembering
Yeah,
someone's birthday.
Yes, so simple.
Take the chance. Be
Exactly.
kind. Be thoughtful.
And what this book is, it's the uncommon sense that all of us need. It's
Right.
as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's so basic.
It's so basic, and actually, I don't know. It makes me feel good. I went to
want a
dinner.
book?
I went to dinner the other night, and the woman who owns the restaurant had gotten me the reservation. I don't know her, but this morning it was fantastic. I texted her. I said, "Thank you for the reservation. The food was amazing. The service was amazing. I loved it so much and so appreciate it." She wrote back. She was like, "No one ever. Oh my God, thank you."
Shouldn't we clone her?
No, but the point is that we all need to be acknowledged in a
Yes.
kind. I feel like this book, it's not just about all your incredible work that you've done and how you got there. It's about who you are in the getting there.
I've been lucky. I've surrounded myself and been surrounded by amazing people. So my journey has been fun, relatively easy compared to some others, but I try to pay it forward. And
Well, that's what you're doing with this book, 100%. You didn't have to write it. You could have locked it up somewhere. This is a gift to
Thank
so
you.
many people, honestly. And it brought me joy to know that someone who's, when I was, up and coming in the world, that someone who was in charge of the yes and no's of the shows I was doing was you.
Oh,
Julie.
very kind.
Julie. Okay. I could have gone on and asked you, but the audience.
We're not here another hour? Oh, okay.
The audience has asked questions, and I want to include them and
good.
acknowledge them in this talk, because I think it's important for you to hear other people, not just me yammering on. So here's some of your questions. I'm so glad you asked this question. How did you balance being a mom with career?
Balance is probably the right word, but there is no such thing as balance. When I was at work, I felt guilty as hell about not being at home with the kid. When I was on vacation, I felt guilty about being away from my colleagues. And even now, as an empty nester, as a vice chair, I feel guilty when I'm not home because I have 2 dogs that I think are missing me. So you have to understand you're never going to feel like you're in balance. It just doesn't exist. But just know in the long run, it will somehow balance itself out, but not at the same time. And it is natural, it is normal, and I wish more people would talk about it, because if people understood that everybody else felt off balance, even guys in a different way, they would feel a lot better, because it would be a conversation you could have with somebody.
Yeah, great question. I was going to talk about that, so thank you. So this question, how do you effectively deal with ageism on the job?
Well, I'm still standing, so right there, I have something going in my favor. But I like to think of it a different way, and it's something I'm thinking about, writing about, and that's about sageism. It's not so much about age and how our society basically puts you in a funny position. The age changes, but once you get 60s and up, heaven forbid 70s, it gets very difficult, even more difficult for women than guys. Guys probably have a 4 or 5 year age range about it. But what I believe is more important is what happens in our culture, where you get to a point where sageism exists and you get pushed out of the culture when you can give back so much because of what you've learned, what you've done, how you could teach others. So where the Japanese culture and other cultures really respect elders. They really want elders to be part of the life and give back and pay it forward and respect that. Our culture isn't there yet. And I think it's so important to embrace the knowledge that comes from experience, from the elder crew, because it's going to help others navigate more easily. So ageism, it exists, but again, you have to figure out yourself, your own way through it and around it, and believe in yourself. I'm shocked I'm still standing, and I'm very happy about it. But the truth is, I still think I'm like 30. So I think I project that on other people and have fooled them for long enough. But again, keep yourself worthy and worth something, but do help to change the narrative in our culture and our society that kind of pushes away the sageism that women and men have at a given age, but somehow people kind of lack the respect for understanding that.
Oh, this is a good one. What is your #1 regret?
That is a good one. I think I'm lucky in that I really don't have major regrets. When something hasn't gone right, I've figured out, I take my own advice, I figured out how to learn from it and either get something different or better or use it. But I think in some ways is not having more women around me when I was younger, navigating the world so I could have work and play in a better, healthier, more fun way. I was able to create it, I think, for my own teams, but I don't think I had it younger in the work world, and I wish I did, and I wish I had a couple of strong women mentors, womentors in my life.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Womentors. Womentors. Yeah.
What's the 16th lie? Or the story that didn't make it into the book?
Too dangerous to tell in this culture right now. I don't think it would be woke.
Oh, that was great. Oh, is there any other industry that you wished you had worked in?
Again, I have to take my own advice. I zigzagged, but I probably didn't zigzag in enough different industries to know what I would have felt comfortable in or grown in, etc. Luckily in media, you kind of touch so many different areas that you don't have to get immersed in, but you get a window into, so I've been lucky to get exposed to that. But I honestly don't know because I didn't experience it.
Right.
So, or touch it enough.
You could always call John Edwards and find out.
Oh, trust me. He's still, every now, I promise you this is the truth. Probably once every 18 months, I get an email or a call saying that the guides have brought my name up. Is everything okay in my life? And I will tell you, there have been 1 or 2 times where he's been on the money. Something was going on. Do you believe in psychics? I don't know. Yeah.
Is there a moment when you felt you were no longer trying to succeed and finally arrived? How do you approach success versus trying to succeed? That's interesting.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm still trying. I don't think I wouldn't have written the book, I think, if I had felt that I'd really made a mark or super succeeded. I think when you're comfortable in your own skin but never believe the press on yourself, or you maintain some humility, you always think you're on the path to doing better, to learning, to trying something new and even getting better than you are. And I kind of don't think I've reached a pinnacle of anything. I still think there's more to do, more to reach. The sageism may get in the way, or the ageism, but it's an interesting question. But no, I'm still on the journey.
Good. That's very uplifting. Someone who's accomplished what you've accomplished. That's great.
But it's true, because I don't know what my next chapter is. And I will tell you, I'm scared because I'm used to knowing what's coming up next. I'm looking forward to the journey of it, but I don't know what's next. The first time in a long time.
Well, knowing
but there'll
you,
be something.
You'll zigzag into something else.
I hope so. Is it going to be zig or zag, though?
Either way, I'm sure it will be wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bonnie.
This has been great.
And I just... And by the way, just to remind you all that you can buy a copy of Bonnie's book, 15 Lies Women Are Told at Work, downstairs in the lobby. And I'm just going to put this out there, being that it is graduation time, what a great gift you can give someone coming out into the world.
And also, I should have said this in the beginning. Thank you all for coming. I mean, I'm so flattered, and I love the fact that I could be with someone as incredible as Julianna. But really, I appreciate it greatly.
Great.